Good day, everybody. I am Mark Werber, the Director of AMS, and welcome to today's webinar on reconciliation of credit cards with NAR e-commerce. Today's topic is rather timely since we're in the middle of due season and there are a lot of credit card transactions. I'm joined today by our expert panelists, Diane Clem and Frank Rittersdorf from the AMS Support Department.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And as usual, we are coming to you live from our multimedia studios here in Simi Valley, California. It takes a village to present these webinars, so we're joined from left to right by Sabrina Freilich, our marketing coordinator, Mark Boatman, the multimedia specialist. He's turning the knobs behind the scenes. That's me right in the middle, followed by Diane and Frank.
Another point we'd like to make is we want to encourage you to upgrade to the latest and greatest. And right now, the version is 9.28.14. This will ensure that your Magic software will be running at the most efficient capabilities.
Our agenda for the day is credit card reconciliation. We'll take a moment to talk about the reconciliation report, exporting files from e-commerce, and importing those files into Magic. We'll run the reconciliation report, and briefly, for your reference, we'll include an appendix which includes troubleshooting tips. We'll follow this by our question and answer session, and finally, our new and exciting Rapattoni news.
What is a reconciliation report? Now, when you're reconciling your numbers, you're pulling from a number of different sources that have a number of different values, even though they a lot of times are the same transactions. Like, for instance, the EC Commerce reports, or reports within your Magic software, or even maybe your bank statement you're comparing. What the reconciliation report is, it's a tool that will centralize and filter your data, which will help analyze your transactions and help you find the bottom line. Essentially, help you compare apples to apples.
Excellent explanation, Frank. The first step in this process is to import the files from e-commerce according to our date criteria. We'll find the reports at the NAR website, then use the group summary report and the group detail report to get the files we need. You can save the files to your workstation by importing them to a folder on your R drive.
I'm going to demonstrate where you can find these reports on your Realtor.org website. Once you log on, you'll click on Access e-commerce. From the e-commerce reporting menu, you'll select Organization Reporting menu. Then you'll click on the Group Summary Report. What we need to, you'll put in a date range, and that will bring back the ACH settlement numbers. What these are batches of your settled credit card transactions. These batches also have a settlement date. They call it a transaction initiation date. That equates to the settlement date in the reconciliation report that we're going to run in just a moment.
Another quick note. Potentially you could have a number of files when you're importing. Especially if you have multiple bank accounts on your e-commerce, because it's 2 ACH files per bank account per day of processed transactions. One for your positive and one for your negative transactions.
Now we're going to import the files that you saved one by one from an e-commerce and save them to a folder you keep on your R drive. At e-commerce, select the group detail report. Enter the ACH settlement number and click on Save As. Save the file to a folder on your R drive and repeat this process for each ACH number on your list.
Now, once you have the file on your workstation or your network, you need to import it into Magic. And you'll start by going to Managers, Accounting, Bank Processing, Credit Card Utilities, and find the NERD Settlement Import. Once you open up the NERD Settlement Import form, you will need to hit F5 to locate your CSV file that you just imported. Again, we recommend to put on your R drive just to keep things consistent. In most cases, your Magic information is on your R drive. Another quick note, you will get a success box that comes up, but the success only means the files were read. It does not mean that there are corresponding transactions in Magic.
Now we'll look at running the reconciliation report. To get there, we'll go from managers to accounting to bank processing, credit card utilities, and select the NRDS reconciliation report. Once there, enter your GL number, billing groups, and appropriate payment types for credit card transactions. When entering your receipt and settlement dates, allow a few more days in your settlement date criteria. Once your receipt is created in Magic, it may take a day or two to clear e-commerce. And remember, the settlement date is the same as the e-commerce transaction initiation date.
Another point to make on the report options for the NRDS reconciliation report is that you probably should choose all and detail. The reason you should choose all is because it will show the reconciled transactions as well as the not reconciled transactions. And the report actually will divide them into two separate sections on the report. The detail, of course, is to show the detailed transactions.
Okay, here's an example of the reconciliation report. Remember, what we're doing here is we're comparing the data that we downloaded from the e-commerce website to the receipts within Magic. On the left, you'll see the settlement date, the gross amount of the receipt, the portion received by the association, and any fees associated with this credit card transaction. On the right is the information that comes from Magic. This is the receipt information. In this example, the receipt date and the settlement date may not be the same date. Here's another example of the same report. However, you'll notice that there is no settlement information from e-commerce. This is unreconciled data. The report may not include reconciled data based upon dates. Remember, the receipt date and the settlement date may be different.
So why didn't a record reconcile? Like Mark just alluded to, there is a delay from the process date, which you would see as a receipt date, to the e-commerce settlement date. So again, be patient. Allow more time for e-commerce to settle the transactions. Now let's say you've waited a longer period of time, and it still shows as unreconciled. You can run a report by the EC control number on the e-commerce website. You would find this number by going to a receipt detail form for the transaction and pulling the reference number, because the reference number is the same as the EC control number. Once you've done that, then you go to e-commerce, look for the EC control report, and run that report, and you should be able to find that transaction.
As mentioned earlier, we've created an appendix section for your reference. We'll cover a glossary of terms and how they relate to reconciliation. We'll look at 2 ways that you can approach reconciling your transactions, and we'll look at simple solutions for when the numbers don't match.
What does it all mean? What we've done here is that we've listed and defined a number of terms. In our experience, what we've realized is when our customers really understand these terms, they become masters of the reconciliation report. Now, we did put this on here, and we will be posting this webinar on our corporate website where you can rewatch, and you will have the luxury to pause maybe on this slide and really dig in and understand the definitions for these terms.
This graphic might help you in comparing apples to apples. We've introduced a lot of new terms to you today. Those terms are different in Magic, e-commerce, and on your bank statement. For example, in Magic, we use receipt date. On e-commerce and bank statement, there is no corresponding receipt date. On the settlement report that we showed you in the previous slides, there's a settlement date. On NARS e-commerce, they call that the transaction initiation date. And on your bank statement, it's called the deposit date. These dates may be different from system to system.
Once you've gathered the data on the reconciliation report, you can compare the numbers to other reports as well. Some associations use the reconciliation report to compare with their deposit ticket in Magic. Others prefer to compare the report to their bank statements.
Let's take a closer look. Again, comparing Magic to Magic. And some associations can compare the reconciliation report to the deposit ticket. Now remember, the deposit ticket is the report that shows what funds you've received for that day or time period. We did put down an example of how you would manipulate the dates to really make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Remember, it's as like anything in Magic, it's criteria, criteria, criteria. Here's another example of how you might be able to manipulate the dates to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. In this case, comparing it to the bank statement. And again, the bank statement is basically just the funds that are in your account.
And what if the numbers don't match? Transactions may be in limbo. Look for transactions that are in check status in Magic in the credit card log, or on the IMS or Internet Member Services in the credit card transaction report. Maybe there's a receipt that took longer to settle at e-commerce. Try extending your date criteria when you import the files from e-commerce. If you can't find the inaccuracy using a large data sample, try cutting the data down to byte size. Compare the totals from each settlement date to the daily transactions on your bank statement or the deposit ticket in Magic.
Okay, let's summarize what we just covered. The first step in reconciling credit card transactions is to export the individual credit card transactions from e-commerce. Once you've downloaded those files, you import them into Magic. Then you run the reconciliation report, which compares settlement transactions from e-commerce and receipts for Magic. We've introduced you to a whole bunch of new terms today, so we've included an appendix for your future reference. That covers our topic on reconciling credit card transactions through e-commerce. So let's open it up to some questions.
The first question is, can you tell whether a transaction has cleared at e-commerce on the same day that it was created, that the receipt was created?
Well, the answer to that would be yes, you could. You would actually need to call. You can call NAR or e-commerce and talk to one of the representatives, and they will let you know if it has been if the transaction has been requested.
Right. The request goes first, and if they've received it, they can print out a document for you so that you can have proof whether it cleared or not. They can verify that it has not come to them. Second question is, can we print the PowerPoint presentation? We aren't able to print the PowerPoint presentation, but you can review the webinar on our website anytime you'd like to.
I don't see any additional questions today, so as a reminder, the support department can answer your questions at any time by going to webinars@rapattoni.com. You can submit a question, or support@rapattoni.com. One more question just before we go. Is this pre-recorded or recorded now for later viewing? The answer is yes. We will post a copy of this entire webinar on Rapattoni Corporation's website. If you navigate to our support center, you will see all of our pre-recorded webinars. You want to show them how to get there?
Let's go ahead and show them how to get there. Give me 1 second. There we go.
So to view our past and future webinars as well, you can visit the company website at rapattoni.com, click on Support, Association Management, Magic Resource Center, and Webinars and Training Videos. Here you'll find a schedule of future webinars as well as a list of past webinars that you can view as many times as you need to. And again, as Frank mentioned, you can pause, rewind, and replay anything that you need a little extra help on.
Rapattoni News! Get your Rapattoni News!
Okay, Rapattoni News. Rapattoni News is a new feature that we include at the end of each of our webinars. Rapattoni News is designed to share with you anything of interest. We may give you a sneak peek into a new feature or talk about any upcoming events. So what's in today's Rapattoni News?
Well, the first thing we like to cover in our Rapattoni News section is our next webinar. Actually, will be in January. On January 25th, 2012, we will cover the education tracking. It'll be part one of our two-part education tracking webinar series. Learn how to set up requirements for specific education goals, create and update education tracking that can be accessed in the member record. This will be very important, knowing that the Cycle 3 deadline for the ethics tracking is coming up soon.
Okay, we've sent out reminders, but we should remind you again in this webinar, NAR has mandated that you become Central Database compliant. The deadline is June 30th, 2012. If your association is not Central Database compliant by that date, you will need to enter membership changes in both Rapattoni Magic and on NAR's website. Rapattoni Magic is CDB compliant. However, the setup time for us is kind of time consuming. So if you want to become CDB compliant, you need to schedule your upgrade well in advance of the deadline. Currently, based upon our commitments that we have scheduled, we have 72 additional slots that we can accommodate before the NAR mandated deadline. If you plan on becoming CDB compliant, you need to contact our sales department to talk about what's the purpose of the upgrade. Our phone number is listed here. It's 800-722-7338, or you can talk to anybody in our support department about what's required to becoming Central Database compliant.
Now, we did get one other question while we were covering this slide, which is, what is CDB? CDB is live communication between your database and NERDS, as is required by the end of June 2012 by NAR. And since this is our last webinar for 2011, we at Rapattoni would like to wish all of you
Happy Holidays!